Hey, everybody. On this episode of the podcast, we're going to continue in our series on secret societies, our S3, we call it. And we're going to get into that in just a minute with the Rosicrucians. But before we do that, Rosie, we have a wonderful
baby update.
All
right, so it's 14 weeks. We are 14 weeks pregnant. The baby is the size of a peach.
Yes. Little sweet peach.
Yeah. So it says, it's about 3.4 inches.
Nice.
Weighs 1.5 ounces. It has almost doubled in weight since last week, and it keeps growing at super speed. Yeah. So it's the beginning of the second trimester.
Yeah.
And the baby, it still looks like a baby. It's starting to wiggle its toes.
Nice.
And it said it might even be sucking its thumb.
Nice.
And it has like this peach fuzz all over it to keep it warm.
Yeah.
And it says also the kidneys are producing urine and the liver and spleen are working. So
wow,
this is 14 weeks.
Yeah.
Democrats, liberals still think you should be able to kill this.
Gosh.
And that's the whole point of why we're doing this, because we're showing you that
it's alive.
It's still alive.
Functioning.
It's
and
been
moving.
alive. It's been alive for 14 weeks.
That's right. It's much more than a clump of cells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it says in a couple weeks, we'll find out if it's a boy or a girl.
All right.
But we don't know yet. So
Might even be having twins.
might even be having twins.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
Thanks for that baby update, brother.
There you go, man.
Well, we're going to get into the Rosicrucians. So sit back, grab a coffee, and enjoy.
You're listening to the All Out War podcast.
What's up, warriors? Welcome to another episode of All Out War. I am Turner, and I'm in the studio with Rosie. What's up, Rosie?
Hey, what's up, T?
Wonder if people just get tired of that same intro.
I get tired of it.
Yeah. We've been doing that same war music for about a year now.
Yeah.
I think it's time to update it, don't you?
Yeah. One of these days.
One of these days. We're just going to surprise everybody with a brand new intro update.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Should be fun.
It'll be cool, yeah. You would like it?
I like it.
Although I've heard a lot of people tell me how much they enjoy our intro.
Oh, well, that's good.
So, yeah.
But those people are stupid. That's a boring intro. Just kidding.
It puts people in a fighting mood.
Yeah.
And we are warriors. You are warriors listening to this thing. All out warriors.
Oh, I'm cringing. Yeah.
Oh, man. So, do you have a did you know? Or
Oh, yeah.
what do you know?
Hey, did you know that there was 10,000 people that were killed by a fart?
No.
I'm serious. Okay. So,
A single part?
yeah, single fart. Yeah, so I was reading a story on farting, and here it says, according to Greek historian Herodotus, whatever.
Herodotus.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Says according to the Greek guy, a fart set off a chain of events that led to a revolt against King Apries of Egypt. The repercussions were even worse in first century Jerusalem. The historian Josephus
Oh, yeah.
tells us that an irreverent Roman soldier lowered his pants, bent over, and, quote, spoke such words as you might expect upon such a posture. The incident took place shortly before the Passover and caused a riot that led to the deaths of 10,000 people.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So an irreverent Roman soldier farted at a bunch
pulled
of
his pants.
Jewish people for the Passover. Oh my gosh. And you think about the Passover, what it means.
Yeah.
Like the spirit of, the death angel passing over. If you
What is the spirit? Spirit passing
through people, causing rage.
I love how
Dude, Herodias, and Josephus. I'll have to check out. I have Josephus's journal. I should read it and find that.
Yeah, I love I love the way that he describes so poetically a fart.
Josephus?
Yeah, so he lowered his pants, bent over, and spoke such words as you might expect upon such a posture.
That's awesome.
That's a fart.
Yeah.
He's saying he farted.
Basically bent, drop trowel, bent over and just rocked it.
Yeah, fart, man.
Yeah.
And 10,000 people died because of a riot.
It's almost, like...
Yes. I've been smoking the green, the ganja herb. Smoke the green ganja herb. The Lord put it in the earth.
We're not even trying anymore.
We don't.
Smoking that sticky green stuff.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
Oh, and now I'm coughing. Excuse me.
You weren't expecting that.
I was not expecting that, man. Oh, hey, I got some pretty cool news, some good news based. So if you've been listening to our podcast for any amount of time, you've been following the fact that we've been, actively suppressed and, weird stuff. We've talked about it before, so I don't need to go over it a bunch. We're just we had guests, high profile guests, and the results were like literally we lost listeners. And it wasn't because of the guests necessarily.
Well, it was because we had high-profile guests.
Right. But our audience are in line with that. Like, they're not like foreign to our audience. So,
yeah.
But so what we experienced was all these, loss of subscriptions and people that our numbers went way down, like to a third of what or
normal was.
2/3 were gone. Yeah. But now we've been tracking and we're back about 60% of what we used to have. We went down 2/3. Now we're back to about 60% of what we had. So we're up a little bit. And we had some listeners from Israel, 3 from Israel, which was really cool in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
India, Kenya, Poland, Serbia.
Poland.
Yeah.
Based Poland.
Poland.
I'm Polish, so.
Yeah. Iran had 3.
Yeah.
Then I love this. Spain had 24 downloads, and the UK, our favorite ally, 52 downloads in the UK. And we also had Germany and the Netherlands in there as well.
In Canada.
In Canada, we had like a few in Canada and Mexico. We did have one in Mexico, but it was over 30 days ago. I remember that. So, we're still getting like people are finding us somehow. I don't know how, but they are, and so that's encouraging. It'd be really cool to get back to the numbers we were at. It's an encouraging thing when you put effort into creating a show and doing all the, research and reading and preparation, and then to just see those dismal numbers and you get frustrated. And it's not because we suck, because we do suck. We knew that from the beginning we sucked. We've always said that. So we're not.
Well, that's what I've always said, that I can't believe that anybody listens to this.
Yeah.
So I've always been of the fact that if anybody listens to it, I'm blown away.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like, my mom listens to this.
My mom does too.
And I expected that. You know what I mean?
I didn't think my mom would.
Well, she doesn't say anything critical. She likes you.
Oh.
In fact, when we did an Instagram poll one time, she picked you over me. So that was kind of sad for me.
Well.
But I understand it.
Yeah.
I'd pick you too.
Thanks, man.
But,
I picked me too.
Oh, man. So we're going to get into our episode.
Yeah.
We're going to continue in our S3, our Secret Societies series. Yeah. And so if you haven't been up to speed with that, we started off with an intro talking about secret societies, and we talked about this group called the Assassins.
Oh, wait, before that.
Yes, sir.
I was going to say, you're hearing this late because we missed last Sunday.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have approached that. I got tickets last minute to go see Blink-182.
Dude.
So that's why I wasn't here. And we couldn't record until now.
And I got to admit, it was nice to have a week off.
It was.
It was kind of refreshing to just not have to worry about the dog barking and just chilling. I think I fell asleep on the couch.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an incredible show.
Was it?
Yeah. Little Wayne played.
Little
Dude,
Wayne.
okay. I
Yeah.
was gonna say this.
Cool.
All right, so I didn't go to. There was two in the same area of us.
2 what?
Concerts.
Oh, 2 shows.
There's 2 shows about a week and a half apart. My sister went to one, and
Same Blink.
no, yeah, same tour. She went to the one that Lil Wayne came out.
Yeah.
So it's Blink-182 and Lil Wayne, which is just weird.
Yeah. That's a strange billing.
Yeah, and they had this other band, Neck Deep, which I really, really like. I've been a fan of them for a while. But anyway, so Lil Wayne, Neck Deep played at this show my sister went to, and then Lil Wayne came out, and they hadn't sold the show out. The concert venue wasn't sold out, so they let all the people from like the poor seats
Come down.
come down and fill it up, like underneath get out of the sun and everything.
Yeah.
And Lil Wayne stopped like 20 minutes into his set, and I was like, the show isn't even sold out. I don't do that. I'm done. And he's like, I'm probably going to leave the tour. And just
What?
walked off. Yeah, it was all over the news. It was huge.
Wow. And your sister was there.
Yeah, my sister was there. And then Blink played. So anyways, when I was there, I went to a different show in the same area. I don't want to give it away. Well, she went to one in Virginia. I went to one in Maryland, because if they do look at the news,
Yeah.
it's going to say it was in Virginia.
Right.
So I guess I'm not being too secretive.
Right.
Anyway, so I went to the one in Maryland, and Lil Wayne came out, and it was 95% white people at this concert. It was a huge venue, huge. It was at Meriwether Post.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. Thousands of people.
Yeah.
95% of them were white. There to go see Blink-182.
Blink-182. That's right.
Yeah. And so it was me. I was the only guy sitting down through the whole Lil Wayne part. And then the guy next to me was also like this white dude who was there to see Blink, like totally, his 30s. He just sat down next to me, and he was with his girlfriend. And she was like, "Aren't you going to stand up and dance?" And he's like, "I don't do that. Not to look like, no. How am I going to dance a little? I don't know any of his songs."
Right.
She was like, "Fine." And I looked at him like, "Dude, I'm sitting here with you, man." I'm like, "We're in this together." So we were the only 2 people sitting there, and it was embarrassing. Everyone was drinking,
Yeah.
but seeing, I don't know how many, 2,000 drunk white people try to dance to Lil Wayne
Yeah.
in front of me all around. It was very embarrassing.
Does he have good music?
No,
Oh, okay.
I don't like his music.
Yeah. So concert where he came out and
So that, yeah,
it wasn't full, was that before yours or after?
yeah,
yours?
that was before.
So he stayed on the tour,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
Okay. Did he say anything?
No,
Because it was packed.
yeah. So
One bad night,
yeah,
Lil Wayne Diva.
yeah. But anyways, Blink-182 was really good, and it was just, I felt embarrassed on behalf of white people.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you don't have to feel embarrassed about that.
yeah.
I mean, everybody knows we can't.
I just
dance.
sat there and read articles on my phone. I looked like such a nerd. Anyways, so that's a long way to say that's why we didn't have
Yeah.
a show that came out on Monday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was cool. And I was happy you got to go.
Yeah, it was good.
That was cool.
So anyways,
I was hoping you'd get backstage to talk to Tom DeLonge, but then you told me he's not.
he hasn't been in the band for like 4 years.
Tells you how much I'm. up
Although
on
they
them.
did play through it was the 20th anniversary of their album Enema of the State
Yeah.
that came out in 1999,
Gosh. Man,
which is crazy.
feels like yesterday. Like
Yeah, but
5
they-
years ago it came out or something.
Yeah, but they have this song called Aliens Exist, and it's all about a song that
Yeah.
obviously Tom wrote it.
Yeah.
And they had all these blow up aliens that they threw out in the crowd. So it's kind of cool.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Did they get just annihilated?
No, people were keeping them and like dancing with them. It was really cool.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. So it was a really fun show.
Cool, man.
Anyways, so yeah, back to Secret
So
Societies.
yeah, we're back, and this is episode number 49 on Secret Societies, and we are. So what I was saying is on the intro a few weeks ago, we started with just the intro to Secret Societies, and we kind of outlined a little bit of what we were trying to do, and we specifically honed in on the first real secret society, which were the Assassins, and that led into the next one, which were the Knights, the Templar Knights,
The Knights Templar.
Knights Templar. Yeah, sorry, I always get it backwards. and they were really very well connected. You know, the Knights Templar, it appears that through the writings and the ways that they did their secret initiations and things, that they really pulled from the assassins. And then there was the one guy that went and actually was a disciple of
The Old Man in the Mountain.
the Old Man in the Mountain, yeah, which was the guy who started the assassins. So, but the one tonight that we're going to talk on, it doesn't have a strong connection that way, other than initiations techniques and rites.
I was gonna say we don't even know. I was gonna say this one's really weird.
Yeah,
because it may exist. It may have existed.
well, we know it did exist because people claimed it, like claimed they were part of it, at least.
Sort of.
Yeah,
it's weird.
So we're talking, just so people know, about the Rosicrucians, which, so just right out of the bat, like up from the get-go, there is no, like, the origins of them are not known.
Yeah.
So they don't know really, like, when they started, how they started necessarily. So, but everything I found about them, and I'm sure there's more information, but there isn't a ton of information. But I'll just read real quick out of the History of Secret Societies, a book that I have for research and reference, and it just says.
You weren't supposed to give away the names of the books that we're using.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that people would actually listen to the podcast and not read them on their own and not listen to the podcast.
Well, I'm gonna go back and edit and beep it out.
Yeah, do that.
So anyways, the book that I'm using for research, it says no authentic document has ever been seen by an impartial observer to show that the Rosicrucian order of the antiquity, which is usually claimed for it, its very elusiveness is, however, part of the charm, because it seems people want to believe, and have since its existence was announced, always wanted to believe that there was such a thing. And so they basically say that there wasn't any real hard evidence from like an origin or a starting point or an individual that ridiculously started it until you get to the year 1597. Mm-hmm. And it says that in 1597 we find the first traces of the Rose Cross Brotherhood. During that year, certain alchemists said a certain alchemist is said to have traveled through certain parts of Europe seeking to found a society which they should carry out alchemical researches. And so there was an individual who in 1597, and he basically put together a constitution for this weird, sect that was he was trying to start. It says, wow, my dog, it's amazing. I don't know if you can hear that in the background.
They can't.
They can't hear it, but my dog's barking. The things we have to worry about when you do a podcast.
Just go.
Little is known about his success. But 8 years later was published a book which gives the Rosicrucian constitution. And it was, however, in 1614 at Kassel that the General Reformation of the World appeared. This work, and that's the name of the actual constitution, it says, this work included a tract called the Varna Fraternitatis, which purported to give the history of the founding of the order. So they have these... They have this constitution that they put together, that this guy put together. It was a group of alchemists. Now, I want to stop for a second there, because alchemy is is one of the things with Rosicrucian that threads its way through for a lot of it. And one of the things about the Rosicrucians is they were always kind of these kind-hearted, I want to call it, secret society. So, for instance, one of the tenets that they kept were that they had to blend in with the culture. So one of the orders was that they had to wear the clothing of the people that they were a part of or they lived around.
And one of the things about them was that they would never, people that were part of the Rosicrucians would never actually say that they were part. Like they wouldn't go out like the knights,
right?
Like the knights for the Knights Templar would wear
the red sash,
their colors, and they would go and they're like, "Yo, we're these badass dudes," we're gonna trample on crosses and rape all the women,
right? Which is what they did, yeah.
Yeah, so these guys wouldn't do any of that, and they're very pious and
they
aesthetic, and
they wanted to use alchemy for healing.
yeah,
So they were trying to like use alchemy for healing. So if those of you that don't know what alchemy is, alchemy was it came out of ancient Greco-Roman post-Egypt, but it came out of Egypt, but it was Greco-Roman era. And it was this process where they were originally trying to purify metals. In particular, they were really trying to figure out how to make gold synthetically.
yeah. I was gonna say I have this really good thing I'm gonna read about because it breaks down the kinds of stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So let me just read this.
Sure.
It'll tie in. It says, in dealing with the question of magic, it is necessary to realize that although to the world in general the word is synonymous with necromancy, it does not bear the significance in the language of occultism, which is what we're going to get into with the Rosicrucians, the occultism. Particularly the occultism of the 16th and 17th century. Magic at this date was a term employed to cover many branches of investigation, which this English Rosicrucian guy named Robert Flood classified under various headings, of which the first three are as follows. So this is kind of breaking down the thing. It says the natural magic, which is the most occult and secret department of physics by which the mystical properties of natural substances are extracted. So they extract the mathematical magic, which enables adepts in the art to construct marvelous machines by means of geometrical knowledge. And this is the kind of the thing that one of the things I did, venefic magic, which is familiar with potions, phyltries, and various preparations of poisons. So that was the stuff, but the alchemy is the first one.
Yeah, and it evolved into that.
Yeah,
is what you're saying. Yeah, and so one of the things that they wanted to do is they wanted to have healing ministries, if you will, where they would like heal people of ailments. And
so,
stuff.
like for example, it's the third one that they talked about in that thing. It was healing people and using these potions and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's like magic and potions, I guess, like witch's brew.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so going back to their origins a little bit. So one of the stories that they talk about in the General Reformation of the World, which is the Constitution that they made in 1614 that was discovered, they say that in 1378 there was a young man who was part of a monastery. He was basically going to become a monk, and he was a German young man by the name of Christian Rosicrucians. Rosicrucians is where we get Rosicrucian.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the name evolved out of this, according to this constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that one of the monks wanted to take him to Israel, and so when they were on their way to the Holy Land, the monk died, and the young boy named Christian was alone, and he was only 16 years old, and so then he journeyed to this place called Damkar, which we don't even know if it actually exists. There's someplace in Arabia, and there's a lot of speculation that it wouldn't even have been possible because Christians couldn't travel through these areas safely.
Yeah.
Being 16.
Yeah.
And having the monk attire, even being young, he probably would have been, murdered.
Well, I mean, just being Germanic, he's going to be white and, not, he would stick out pretty
and
well.
This is 1378, 1380.
Yeah.
This is going to be right when things are heating up between, Islam and the Catholics and all. And so, but they say that he visited this place called Damkar, and that these holy men kind of took him in, and when he was traveling through Arabia, and he ended up studying in Egypt at a place called Fez. And then after he finished all his schooling there, then he went back to Europe into Spain, and they didn't really want what he brought back, because what he brought back was not Catholicism. He brought back this weird, what we'll call Rosicrucianism. Yeah. This occultic, weird. And why? Here's the thing. Like, I just realized this. Isn't it interesting that the Knights Templar and the Assassins both came out of Islam?
Yeah.
And then now you have this Rosicrucian where he spent time in Arabia with all these Islamic
Yeah, and I was going to say, as we get more into the Rosicrucians, the weird thing, so even though he went and studied, with these, I don't know, what would we say, mystics or
Yeah.
Eastern, these Middle Eastern mystics and all these guys doing, the occultic.
Well, this dude, Christian Rosicrucian, was extremely mystical guy.
Yeah,
Magic and...
Yeah, but what I was going to say is this is the only one. Well, it's weird because he came back and he brought all that with him, but he also tried to marry it with Christianity.
Yeah.
So that's this really weird Rosicrucianism that it's
veiled over
Yeah.
it. He kind of drapes Christianity over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, this is getting back to the whole thing with Gnosticism, or that idea of the hidden truth or something like that. I heard they're talking about one of the secrets of Rosicrucianism, and they're tying it in with the this is a good example, right? So apparently there's this myth of the Sphinx, right? So it was this creature, and anyone that passed by her, she would ask them this riddle, and if they didn't answer it correctly, she would eat them and then kill them. And if they did answer it correctly, then she would be destroyed.
Wow.
So that's the history of the Sphinx. And then,
So what's it do with her head being her nose falling off?
dude, that's getting into some other stuff.
I know. I know. I got some ideas on that.
But anyway, so the legend goes that this Greek, Stoic, I think who it was, came by. She asked him a question that had to do with life and death or something like that. And the answer is he gave her the correct answer.
Oh.
And she died, and then that was this whole myth. But to tie this in, so that his answer about the question of death and all this stuff, that's what it had to do with life or death.
Yeah.
And so it's ironic that, if you didn't answer correctly, she would kill you.
Right.
So his answer was that you don't die. So there is no answer to life because it just continues. There's no end to it.
Wow.
And basically, it's just another progression. So when you die, it would be not a stopping of one thing and starting of another. It would just be you would be changing into a new cycle or a new...
Just crossing a threshold into a new room, almost like...
Yeah. So it's just another room of the thing.
Yeah.
And so then what these Rosicrucians, so that's one of these secrets, is that this eternal life. So you get so now you hear, so, if you were to say, oh, well, isn't that in the Bible? You're like, yeah, it is.
Wow.
That idea of
eternal life.
Eternal life.
But
So
here's the secret about it.
right. So they would do all this stuff. Because, I was going to say...
deeper knowledge.
So, so that's what they would say. You're just slipping in from one thing to another and blah, blah, blah. It's not... Because we would believe that your soul doesn't die. So technically, you don't...
Well, we're eternal.
Right. So, so you see, so that's just an example of how they would take a concept and put this mystical spin on it. And because, they're saying an eternal truth, because there is only objective truth, right? There's absolute truth.
There's absolute truth.
Right. So you take an absolute truth and then you put your spin on it to add more into it.
Well, it's age-old thing in the garden, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We talked about this on spiritual warfare. What was Satan? Our episode on spiritual warfare. We're like, what was Satan's tactic? He's like, did God really say? And then he would repeat back, but not all of the truth, just part of the truths.
Yeah.
So they were really mystical, and they wanted to veil it in this because obviously that was the predominant cultural and
in Germany. Yeah.
Well, he goes back. So he goes from Arabia to Spain. Then from Spain they kick him out because they didn't like him, and then he ends up back in Germany. And it says he made many disciples in Germany, having formulated great wisdom. I love this. This is funny. Which he had received into a system, which was to save mankind. So he had created a salvation cult, basically. And he died at the age of 150 years, not because he had to, it is noted, but because he wanted to, which seems a good enough reason.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny. So this guy goes down to Arabia as a young boy. He gets taken in by these weird mystics in Arabia, and who knows? Honestly, like if the story is true about this guy Christian, maybe he felt like that's the only way that he could survive if he were to table his Catholic, education and learning, and then jump into their thing to survive. Maybe it was like a survival thing, and then he just slowly believed it. And then he goes back to Spain and gets kicked out.
And you got to think at the same time this is going on, supposedly, because the Rosicrucians, they call them the Rosy Crosses.
Yeah.
That I saw was saying it. I think that's actually, I only took 9 years of German, so my German's a little bad, but
only 9 years.
Yeah, but I mean his last name is pretty sure, and any of our listeners in Germany could probably correct me. I didn't look it up, but Rosenkreuz means Rose Cross.
Rose Cross, yeah.
So that's the Knights Templar. So you got to think that he probably, that's where they started to get
influenced by the Knights.
Because if you say, "Oh no, we're Templars," and then they would get the protection granted to them by people just assuming.
Yeah,
so
the prestige and the fear people.
Yeah.
Were
So if
afraid
anyone caught that, they would just know what it was and not really say anything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they wouldn't go around saying that they were.
Yeah. So this guy Christian's the thing that he was like trying to embed and kind of create, it just says here that it says the objective of the organization was to restore the supposed lost secret of science, particularly in medicine.
Yeah.
So that's where the alchemy comes in, and where that whole weird, but then they had all this mystical, esoteric beliefs that were blended. It's like, this is the crazy thing. How coy is, like, how brilliant.
Yeah.
I hate to even say this. How brilliant is Satan? Because he takes the truth and he just twists it just enough, and then he adds things to it, so that it's like a bait. Like, oh, here's truth, but it's really a hook that's not going to bring you to real truth.
Yeah.
The final truth. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like that's what they do with this stuff.
Well, yeah, I think I had said last time that I heard it put that only God can create new, as a creator.
Yeah.
And Satan's not a creator.
No.
But he can twist. So that's really all.
Imitate and...
That's all his tricks are is.
It's funny, too. Jesus is called the Lion of the tribe of Judah, right? And it says that Satan roams around like a roaring lion.
Right.
Right?
Not as a...
Right.
But like, yeah.
Yeah. But, so let's talk a little bit about initiations and things like that, or do you have anything on that?
I don't have anything on
you
that.
don't have anything? Okay, so I got a little bit. Basically, the requirements of the members were not difficult. They were to cure sick without a fee, and they were to wear clothes of the land in which they were living. We just talked about that. They were to blend in with the culture, and they were to attend one meeting of the order of each year. So they were to go to a meeting, like an annual order of the Rosicrucian meeting, and then it says that they also were to choose a successor when they were on their deathbed. Mm-hmm. So they had to probably have some disciple ready to carry on their little thing. One of the things that I read too that they did is, so alchemy, the roots of it were trying to really change metal into gold, and so they would like experiment with all these different like valuable jewels and things like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they would do is they would use these valuable jewels to get into circles of wealthy people, and then they would try and serve them by healing them and making a name for themselves to get in those circles. Yeah. To have really prestige and influence. Yeah. And so it was almost like wealthy elites would have a Rosicrucian around as sort of like a doctor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that was kind of their little niche that they were affiliated with. If you ever watched Game of Thrones, like, did you watch Game of Thrones at all?
Yeah.
So they always had, like, the king always had, like, what they were called it wasn't a doctor, but it was like a doctor. What did they call him? Do you remember what they called him?
No.
The guy that went down to the big school and he's the one like chubby guy that killed the White Walker, the first person to kill a White Walker.
The eunuch with no hair?
He was one also.
Okay.
But the school that the other guy that was up at the
I don't, yeah.
yeah, well, they were,
I don't remember.
everyone that watched it is so mad at me right now. They're like, "Did you really?" I did watch it, but anyways, it's that type of thing where an elite, and then you'd have this guy that could do magic and kind of weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you think about it, it's very clandestine, like
Yeah,
because they're going there under one pretense to legitimately, and one would think from reading stuff written about them,
yeah,
like you said, that they. I almost want to say, like we were talking before, that they seem like if you picture New Age people, like in my head, because I was listening to some other stuff about more specific of some of this guy that claimed to be a Rosicrucian in the early 20th century. Is really weird because it turns out that the Rosicrucian order started. It's called like Mount Ecclesia in California.
Really?
Is this Rosicrucian
Ecclesia?
place? Yeah.
That means the church.
Yeah.
Oh, Mount
So-
of the church.
Yeah, so they started this. So, anyways, but listening to when he was going into like the secrets and all that stuff, supposedly, that I just kept picturing like these hippies, but at the same time, like the modern day hippies where they're talking about, like all is one and like Brahma and all these weird like amalgamations of Eastern and Western stuff. And like, I have a lot of friends that are hippies. And so I just always picture them because they're like, just do some Reiki, or, like some healing, or like take this crystal, it gives out these energies.
Yeah.
And at the same time, so I pictured those guys, but like very clean cut.
Yeah.
And like, it's very smart. So, but what I was trying to say is,
No, I'm tracking with you.
It
Totally.
seems like they probably had good intentions at some point, because they legitimately, if you believe taking all this into account, if you believe it, that they were doing it to legitimately help people,
Yeah.
but at the same time to get in with this. That's why they were secret and no one knew about them.
Yeah.
That'd be like, someone being an advisor to the president,
Right.
or something like
Yeah,
that,
like a
getting
spiritual
into his
advisor. Yeah.
But at the same time, he's, probably maybe he's giving him good advice. And at the same time, he's part of this other secret organization that he's, manipulating and trying to position himself in order to get around all these other important people.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you could probably avoid taxes, and
Yeah.
they'd probably if you healed one of his elite's family members, they'd probably not pay you, but give you a house to live in, right? Or food,
Yeah.
By the way, the Game of Thrones doctor was called a Meister.
okay.
That's what they were called. Remember? And he had to go, the chubby guy that...
I don't remember.
Oh, you don't? There was like a chubby guy that went down and became a Meister, and he came back and was able to actually heal people.
Gotcha.
He healed one of the main characters of the skin disease.
Okay.
So, anyways,
Yeah.
So, and we could do a whole episode on Game of Thrones. No, I'm serious. Like parallels of things that were literally drew from like things that are real life, like weird things. Like these Meisters were probably like Rosicrucians,
Yeah.
or like the magicians in Pharaoh's court back in Egypt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Alchemy came out of Egypt, right? Post-Egyptian, but Greco-Roman era.
But I was going to say at the same time, what's really interesting, because if you look back, if you just do a Google search for something like who are Rosicrucians, who were the Rosicrucians, or notable members of the Rosicrucians,
Yeah.
they have all sorts of people like they claim are. Because I think, I'm pretty sure Leonardo da Vinci it was Isaac Newton. He wrote a lot about alchemy.
Yeah.
Like he wrote a lot of stuff. So they would say he was probably a Rosicrucian, or I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
That he was attributed to it. I've heard Francis Bacon, because at the same
Really?
time, yeah.
Well,
There's-
the 1700s and the 1800s, alchemy was sort of like modern medicine was emerging.
Right.
But alchemy was like,
Still there.
yeah. And now I'm believe it or not, I'm hearing of a resurgence of alchemy.
Dude,
Can you believe that?
I heard of this. Okay, I had to just as a total aside, I just stumbled upon this yesterday.
Yeah.
This is great. When you're talking about natural remedies,
Yeah.
apparently,
I don't even know if I want to hear this.
okay, no, it's totally safe for work. It's okay. Apparently, there is some guy that's part of some church or something like that out in, I want to say, out west, somewhere in like Oregon or something like that. He claims he's part of a church, and they claim that drinking bleach is like the best natural remedy for like everything. They're like, yeah, you can like put it in your eyes and it'll like
What?
clear your eyesight.
Yeah, it'll clear your eyes, all right.
Yeah, but it was all this stuff. So apparently that's a real thing because there's all these legitimate news agencies saying, don't drink bleach, don't shoot bleach into, like, they're talking, this guy is from this pastor or something, some crazy. He says he's Christian.
It's a cult. It's a cult. Straight
Yeah,
up.
but he was doing all these YouTube videos on like how to make your own bleach and all this stuff. And but he was talking about, he's like, yeah, we put them in our cows and like we shoot it up and they have amazing skin and the meat's so much better. So I was just gonna say, that's what I thought of when you see a resurgence of this alternate healing stuff.
Yeah, who knows, man? Because
But I was gonna say, don't drink bleach.
don't eat Tide Pods and don't drink bleach.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And alchemy, like I thought when I first, because I didn't really know much about it till I started reading a little bit more about it here, and I still don't know a whole ton about it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was like pre-chemistry or something like that, because alchemy, chemistry, I thought it would have some kind of connection there, and maybe in some weird distant way it does, because it was prehistoric,
Well,
or
it's
whatever.
using substances, so you can see how one would probably transition to the other.
Yeah.
One's more scientific, though.
Right.
Well, I mean, if you look at Isaac Newton's writings about, like, he was, like, the way I heard it described once, and this is just mind-blowing when you think of this guy, that his, like, when he would figure out, like, gravity,
Yeah.
he was like, okay, that's cool, but I'm still trying to figure out how to turn stuff into gold. Like, he was, like,
Stumbling across really
all these
genuine good
crazy
stuff.
science stuff, but he was really all about alchemy.
Yeah.
So, like,
It just captured him, man.
yeah.
Well, I mean, if you could think of how cool it would be if you'd be able to make gold, you would never need to work again. Your job would be to make gold.
Yeah. I'd never tell anybody.
I would never tell. It's like the goose with the golden eggs, right?
Yeah.
Like you would never tell anybody.
Yeah.
Or a money tree, right? It's all fantasy.
Yeah.
There is no way.
Well, Jesus could.
Well, Jesus, yeah. See that fish? Boom, gold.
Gold.
Well, he did have the fish that spit coins out of its mouth.
Yeah. There you go.
He was alchemy master. All right. So some of the weird things about him we can talk about a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like you didn't know much about the initiation process or anything, but I do have a little bit of information about like what it might have looked like in an actual initiation moment.
Yeah.
Really weird. Like they say that the room for initiation was carpeted in green, and these things all matter. They're all occultic symbology or whatever you want to call it, symbolism. And on it were a number of objects. A globe of glass, so a globe of glass, stood on a pedestal with 7 steps. It was divided into 2 parts, symbolizing light and darkness. So there you go. This is a big thing, and a lot of our listeners don't realize this. Like when you see the black and white checkerboard, which is famous in Freemasonry, when you see the Baphomet with the as above, so below, and it's this whole
Dualism,
light and dark, and even in Eastern mysticism, when you have the yin yang, one's black, one's white, the symbol,
but they complete each other. Yeah.
as a circle. There is this whole understanding in the occult realm of this black and white, how you need to have darkness and light, and darkness is just as necessary as light, right? Whereas those of us that are on the light, like in the Bible, so I'm going to just point this out, that the Bible says in John chapter 1 that Jesus is the light of life and the light of men. He's the light of the world, the true light, and light was the first thing that God created, right? And but in the occult world, they're like, okay, that's great, but you still need to have darkness.
Yeah.
And it's just very weird how they embrace that dark side of things. And so this is just a nod to that there's this 7 steps. So as you're ascending in knowledge, secret knowledge, you're ascending in your, and what did Satan say? I will ascend to God. There's literally 7 mountains that he talks about, that Satan, the I will statements. So all of these things, like whether they know it or not, they're literally they're veiled deceptions of satanic things. So light and dark, and then 3 candelabras were placed in the form of a triangle. All you need is an eye in the middle, right? So we know about the triangle. 9 glasses indicated a male and female properties, the quintessence of other things, and then a brazier, and a circle and a napkin completed the ritualistic items. So, and you had to have, like, remember how we were talking about, like, on the deathbed they had to pick a disciple or hand it off
Successor, yeah.
So they have somebody that's a sponsor for this initiation process as well, and there's like this ritualistic cleansing that happens.
Sounds like Islam.
Yeah, that too. So you have to go through a door. You have to knock on a door and go through a door. So you pass through a threshold. They pull out a sword, and you have to put your hand, like 3 fingers on the sword. Like, this is a cult the 3 fingers of that you always see in cult, and when I talk about the Baphomet, how it has the 3 fingers, one holding up and one pointing down on one hand, as below, above, so below. And then it has it says they have a sword, a pen. They also have a wax for sealing, and 2 red cords. Red cords. Now this is really interesting. Red cords are symbolic of sacrifice. Typically, here's an interesting thing. In the scriptures, in the Bible, there's a couple instances. One, like a scarlet cord. When you get to Joshua, the book of Joshua, when he's with Rahab, and Rahab is a prostitute, and she hides the spies when Joshua's told to take over the city of Jericho. Yeah. And he goes in, they scout it out, and he says to her, hey, tie this scarlet cord out your window, because her house was actually on the wall of Jericho. And he said, when we invade, when the walls break down, you'll be spared, and whoever's with you and your family, if they're in the house with you. And so, like, just that story alone is such imagery of Christ, right? Because you have the red cord representing the blood of Christ, salvation. If you're in it, you're saved. Like, there's like this whole pointing to Joshua's name. Actually, in the Greek, Jesus' name is Joshua in the Greek.
Yeshua.
Right? Yeshua. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have even the same name, right?
Right.
But here you have red cords. It's symbolic of sacrifice. It's symbolic of giving over something and finding something new.
Yeah.
And then it says once they go through all these things, listen to this. It says the candle. It says, now the candidate was asked whether he was still strongly of a mind to become a student of true wisdom. If he answered that he was, he surrendered his hat and his sword and paid his fee of 3 gold pieces. Gold pieces, right? What was Jesus betrayed for? 30 gold, 30 pieces of silver. Yeah. So like the number 3, there's, coins involved. Yeah. You don't have to reach hard, right? And it says, and then his hands were bound with a red cord and placed around his neck. Now, the other thing I want to point out, this is really interesting. Recently, there's been over the past, probably, I want to say in the last year or so, there's been these weird suicides with, like, in particular, I think of Chester Bennington, and I think of the guy from Soundgarden, Chris Cornell. Yeah. So and then also Anthony Bourdain's girlfriend, who died from this particular method as well.
I didn't know about that.
I'm pretty sure that was her that died. I might be wrong.
Well, no,
She is Kate Spade. Is that her name?
No, it's separate. She wasn't. They were,
All right. So Kate Spade died, right?
Yes, and then Anthony Bourdain.
And then okay, so they were just in around the same time frame.
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
Okay, I got confused. Sorry. She died, and one of the things that were common with all, they hung themselves on a doorknob with a red scarf or a red like rope or whatever, and it just freaks me out to think about it because they're sending a message, and they think that it's because they were about to tip off these Illuminati pedophile rings and all this stuff,
Yeah.
like they really do.
No, I know.
You laugh, but I mean,
no, I was cringing at using Illuminati like that.
well,
I know.
well, here's why.
Just that phraseology.
It is, yeah. It's such a general statement anymore. But with Kate in particular, like one of the things, like one of her last photo shoots, she was like in a kitchen with a black and white checkerboard floor, which is the black and white. We were just talking about that, and so there was some real interesting things surrounding those, and I really believe that all of these things are tied into
absolutely
stuff that we're seeing now. We just don't realize it, and you have to pay attention. And it's not like some people think that when you start getting into these things that you get a little crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for them to see it. But when you really authentically and pray through and pay attention as you're reading.
Yeah, you do need to have discernment.
Yeah, 100%. So you need to ask for it.
Ask for if you're getting into all this stuff.
Yeah.
Pray for discernment.
Yeah, and in particular, if you are not a Christian, but you have interest in all of the secret knowledge and wisdom, and you have a spiritual intrigue about yourself and interest, my advice to you is research the claims of Christ first and why you would need those, because that is ultimately the truth. And then measure that against these things. Because there's only one truth, as you were saying a few minutes ago, like there's only one truth. So like, let's find that.
Yeah.
And let's anchor our whole belief and life on that.
Because once you are grounded in that, everything else, like you can see everything else, because there's nothing hidden with Christianity. Again, as we keep repeating, there's no hidden stuff to Christianity. It's right there. So it's really easy. It's literally in a book.
Yeah, yeah.
You can look it up. There's so many people. It's not hard to find. I'm just thinking of like the assassins, the Ishmaelis or whatever.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like their initiation rites were. You're learning more secrets, you're learning more secrets, and then you find out, oh yeah, all that other stuff, that's BS that we just taught you, and there is no truth. Yeah. And then you go further, and it's like, yeah, what we just said before, that's not even true. And then you go further, and like, that stuff we just told you again, when you just denounce all the other stuff, this is actually the truth. And so, I was going to say, if you're interested in all of that kind of stuff, is you don't really know. So if you're like anchoring in the teachings of,
well, say Freemasonry.
Freemasonry, okay.
Right,
if you're going with the esoteric teachings that come from Freemasonry, because you know that the stuff that you know is already hidden, that you would have to assume that there's other stuff that might contradict what you already know within that own
belief
system.
Yeah,
exactly. So you can't even measure anything using that as a jumping off point, because there's more to what you know, what you should know on your side. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Like an unchanging, anchoring starting point.
Right, exactly.
That won't move.
And everything else, but just by the nature of it being hidden, that there's always going to be more hiddenness of it.
And trust me, there's a lot of mystery to being a Christian.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually mention that in the Bible. Like Paul mentioned specifically the mystery of the cross, the mystery of God's love, the mystery of the gospel, So there's like real things that unfold over time as we grow in the Lord, but it doesn't change the initial like standard facts.
Yeah, but I was going to say, like, even when I'm thinking about like so there's this, to kind of bring it back to this temporary, I'll make the point, but this is kind of a roundabout way of saying it.
Yeah.
So there's recently this bill, they're going to, they overturned capital punishment, I think, because they're going to kill.
I saw that. Yeah.
They're going to make it legal to execute these 5 child murderers by the state. So they're
and elderly too. They like if they killed elderly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or handicap.
Yeah.
Elderly handicap.
But I know
children.
it was these 5 in particular that were all child murderers.
Right. Yeah.
And so it brought up this thing of, as capital punishment. Maybe we'll do an episode on that. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
This, that, blah, 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 with the Christian answer. And so it made me think because, I don't, part of me is like, I don't want to give the government all this power and stuff. And at the same time, say someone, so this is an example of a Christian mystery, if you will. So I can look at someone that's a convicted pedophile, child murderer, who's going to die in prison, right?
Yeah.
Like he's got a life sentence. He's going to die in prison. He did something that in my mind, I could never, that person is dead to me. I don't want them in society. Those people do not reform. Like if you look at the statistics,
Yeah.
the recidivism rate is not good.
Yeah.
Or they likely do not change. So I'd look at that and I'm like, it's so much cheaper just put a bullet in their head. You know what I mean? Save my tax dollars. Like I can't. That's my immediate instinct. Castrate these guys. Just end them. And people would say, yeah, but they can always be free. So this is the mystery, as I would say, God's love as a Christian is, I don't understand how God can still love a sinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone as bad as that, we would have to say that somehow, they're still made in the image of God, not condoning anything. I just stated what my views are, and I could never fathom how that Christ, I can't fathom that Christ's blood would really, that's something I would struggle with. Like, it's like, does Christ's blood really cover that? But at the same time, that's what that's
right.
Like, I would say a Christian mystery. So that's what I would say is
well put.
That's a Christian mystery that we may not grasp how it all works, how God can love that much.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that we know what he said. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's why we have a mystery with it, because we can't reconcile our brains with his.
Right.
Our love will never be at the same level as his. So that's the kind of mystery I just want to say that we're talking about. But it's not that God hid some portion of his love.
Yeah. I wasn't saying that there's like levels of
No, I know.
But and you're right, it's the created looking at the creator.
Right.
You're never going to be able to match it.
Understand what he said.
You're always going to be less than that.
Right.
But,
so I'm sorry, I just wanted to use that roundabout way of
But it's really cool
explaining.
because that example you gave is like this whole initiation process that they do with these Rosicrucians.
Yeah.
At the end, they basically draw a circle and they say these words, these special words, and then he basically says to him that he says, your spirit must gain rule over your body. You have found grace. Arise and be free. And then he leads them into the circle. The circle is representing the eternity, without beginning, without end, right? So all of these things symbolically kind of, in someone who's innocent and ignorant would say, well, if it's talking about eternity and that's what it's about anyways, then how is that wrong?
Yeah.
It's not the eternity. It's just like everything else that the enemy, that Satan does when he creates his own version of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So he has light and darkness. So he has, his gospel of way of being saved that isn't come through the blood of Christ, but a different type of sacrifice. All of these other things, and it's all imagery, but it doesn't deliver. It can't deliver. That process, that initiation process this Rosicrucian does, it doesn't bring them into eternal life. It doesn't bring a person into eternal life. And that's the thing that's why. So it goes on too, by the way, this process, it's like 4 pages in this book. And like they have columns that they talk about. Columns are represented in a lot of Illuminati and Freemasonry imagery, and stairways. So they have these step processes. Stairways are, they're into enlightenment.
Right.
And the illuminated ones. We were talking about Illuminati, and it just really talks about the illuminated ones. These are the ones who have reached a level of wisdom and perfection in mankind that has surpassed what God could be.
Right, because you have to do something in order to get it.
Yeah, and to get to that process, and it's all veiled, but you will never, that's the thing, is that a created thing will never be greater than his master, his creator. A created thing will never be greater than the one that created it.
And we can't be greater than the thing that we were created to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we can't add to ourselves.
Right. We can't. So it's like, anyways, the Rosicrucian, even though they wanted to help people, and the Rosy Cross, and it had imagery of, Christianity and all, it's outright satanic, Luciferian cult.
Yeah.
In origin and roots. It will never lead a person to eternal life. It will only lead them away from it. And I get icky reading this stuff sometimes, researching. I don't know if you do. Have you felt we've been talking about experiencing weird spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
Maybe this is why, because we're actually tapping into some of these things that have really deep roots and have been around in the world, existing in different, revelations and different appearances since Genesis, chapter 6, really, since Babylon.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I would agree, because a lot of the stuff that I read, which is why we decided, instead of both reading the same stuff, we'd read opposite stuff.
Which I love that.
Yeah,
it's cool.
So it's good, so that we can bring different aspects to the table. So that's why, unlike being literally on the same page in the last two, we figured we'd switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But the stuff that I read about, a lot of this stuff, it keeps going back to the Babylonian mystery religion. Yeah, that's what it keeps saying. This esoteric, what they would say is this Jewish old mysticism that took, which kind of makes sense now. If you think about it, that they were in Babylon, and as a way to maybe try to trick the Jews at the time, they take some of Judaism, and they try to marry it with this Babylonian stuff, which is weird, because then they also bring in stuff from Greeks, or as it keeps going, and they keep adding and adding and adding all to the stuff.
It's just polluting.
Right, but but it's that in that same vein. So I think it's interesting now, if they were doing that back with Judaism, that now they're trying to do it again with Christianity. So it's always this the evil, the same stuff that they were doing back then. Yeah. Back in the Babylonian.
Ironically, a Jewish person would look at Christianity and say they did
the same thing.
Yeah, they did do that. And we would say that we as Christians, we say that Jesus is the fulfillment of the Messiah, that he fulfilled all the requirements of Messiah. So he was the completion of Judaism. Right. The really fulfillment of it. The Messiah that they're looking for, he is it.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I don't mean that by any discouragement of Judaism.
No, not at all.
So I don't.
Christianity doesn't exist without it.
Right.
Like we owe, and Paul even said that. Yeah. We owe everything to our Jewish ancestors, in the sense, I'm not Jewish, but our Jewish ancestors in the sense of
the ancestors of the faith,
the sons of Abraham. Yeah, the true sons of Abraham that believed God. Yeah. And were accredited as righteous.
Yeah. I was going to say, we're actually going to have some Orthodox Jews on the show, so
at some point, yeah.
So cool. we're not saying that.
No,
I don't mean
not
that
at all.
In any derogatory way.
Well, I don't look. We say a lot of critical things about Muslims and Islam here, but I have friends that are in Islamic faith. I just don't agree with it. Yeah. And now, how people disagree with other people, it varies, right? Yeah. And so I got to be careful, but at the same time, I basically would say, in the greatest love of all, hey, explore the truth. Yeah. Explore what I believe. I've looked into the Quran. I understand.
I was going to say, challenge us. If I keep saying Muhammad was a pedophile, go and look into, and I say that because it's in the life, the hadiths, it's in the stuff of what he says. Challenge me. Yeah. Go try to prove me wrong, please.
Yeah, right.
Please prove me wrong.
And it has nothing to do with like an arrogant, like we're right. It has everything to do with like, if this is right and true, what we believe in Christ,
Yeah.
then we want everyone to know it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I want you to know this? Like,
Yeah.
if I really care about you as a friend, like
Yeah.
this is important stuff for you. And, you know, that's up to you what to do with it.
Yeah.
I can't make you, right?
Yeah.
If you're elect, then you'll
Yeah.
oh man. Anyways. Yeah, so the Rosicrucians, they
Yeah.
have a cool name, but man,
Yeah, and I was gonna say that just the whole weird thing about, again, why there's so much, you know, we couldn't just read this happened, then he went here, like, you know, very detailed, and this is who he's his friends with, and this is who that, and this is that. It's because it's all, like you said, the earliest writing was 300 years, they said, of how it came to be.
yeah.
So they're talking about the past, and it's all this fantastical stuff. So it's just really weird. Rosicrucian, it's just really weird.
It is, yeah. And they found like yeah.
I was gonna say, although here, this other thing, when I was looking into a little bit of their teachings, they actually do have this belief that I was gonna say for the end because it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
That they actually believe that in a very universalist way, which isn't surprising, because they're not Christian. So they, you know, would have this stuff, and that goes more towards New Age, like what I was saying with the hippies. But they basically believe that these angels that came down, and to each I know you're gonna. This totally falls in with like a bit, like, or as soon as I say after it, it's gonna be like, well, yeah, that's because this. So apparently, part of this ancient teaching is that these specific angels with knowledge went to specific places, right? Geographic, and they gave versions of religion to each individual. So they gave Confucianism. Wow, I can't talk.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
Confucianism.
Confucianism. Oh my God.
You're Confucianism.
Buddhism. All right,
Right.
they gave Buddhism over there, you know, to
Yeah.
the East Asians, and they gave, you know, Islam over here, and they gave the Native Americans this, you know, different,
peyote.
yeah, and you know, so basically they believe that all these angels came to different geographic locations and gave different versions of religion that all have a seed of truth.
Right.
But it was basically tailored to that individual.
So that's where universalism kind of,
Because they say it's all truth.
yeah.
So they would say it's, you know, like the elephant and the blind guys. Oh, you know, he's feeling the ears. So he's like, oh, it's really soft. And the other guy's feeling like, you know, the foot. And he's like, no, it's really rough. And,
Yeah.
you know, all the stream, you know, many streams lead to the same ocean and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was just really interesting that they actually believe that. If they did, which is what this Rosicrucian guy that set up that place in California was claiming.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is like all these little sects in society, like Rosicrucian societies and weird sects of it started to pop up through the centuries.
But I was going to say, it's interesting if that actually was a teaching that these different angels came down and gave different religions to different people.
Yeah.
It sounds like those were
Bad angels.
fallen angels
Yeah,
that were given dominion over specific geographical locations, and they tricked these people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ephesians 6.
So-
principalities, powers, and high places.
Yeah, so it all goes back to the Bible. So I heard that and I was like, right there you go.
Right.
God already
Busted
said
them out.
that happened.
Yeah, and you're talking about the mystery Babylon earlier.
Yeah.
In Revelation, it literally calls it out by name.
Yeah.
When he destroys it, the mystery Babylon. He says it's going to be over. So I love that. But
Yeah.
man, dude, this has been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, this one was a little different than the Knights and the Assassins, but we're moving now. We're already up into like the 1800s now. We went from, because it really started in the earliest parts of Rosicrucianism started in 13s, but that they know of, 1360 or whatever, and now by the time they're historically, you know, kind of fading out, it's in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So So they're, I guess the next one we'll tackle.
Don't even say it.
I don't even want to say it. Yeah.
We'll figure one out.
We will. But dude, it's been fun.
Yeah, man.
This is cool.
Always fun.
Yeah. Well, listener, thank you so much for sticking it out. But before you leave, we just want to ask you to do us a favor. And if you have not rated and reviewed us on iTunes, it helps us to overcome the technocratic evil algorithms that hold us back. And we love to hear your reviews because it makes us feel good and our egos are stroked.
And I was going to say the other thing is send us, well, you do all the social media stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll still say send us
Yeah.
ideas, because if there's something that and I don't want to say this so that people think that we don't have ideas of what to do, because we got tons of ideas for episodes, but specifically, like if you like the Bigfoot one that we had a lot of fun with, was a listener requested that we're like, that would be fun to do. So if you do have any ideas, feel free to send them to us, because it's always nice to. I was telling you earlier, like when I get stuck into thinking about secret societies, all I think about is secret societies.
Right.
And all I'm reading about are secret societies.
Right.
And so sometimes I forget about, like, the
other
so
stuff.
we're like, what do we want to do for the next whatever? I'm like, let's just bang out secret society, and then we can do this one and we can do that one. So if you want to hear something else, man, just tell us. Yeah,
we'd love it. And you can reach us at AOWcast on Twitter, and you can reach us on Instagram at All Out War Podcast.
Yeah.
And you can also find us on YouTube. Most people don't know it, but we're on YouTube. All of these audio podcasts go straight to YouTube as we upload them as well. There's no visuals, so you don't get to see Rosie's amazing beard, but you will get the audio. So if you're one of those YouTube people that kind of turns on YouTube in the background, you can find us at All Out War Podcast as well. So we're on different platforms. Reach out to us, DM us, let us know what's going on. If you
slide into our DMs.
Slide into our DMs, yeah.
So just send us suggestions if you want us to do something.
And as always, we thank you for listening.
Yeah, man.
We love you. We'll catch you next time on All Out War.
Bye.
Stay frosty, warriors.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
Thanks for listening to the All Out War podcast today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to know more, you can visit us on the web at alloutwar.us, or you can find us on Twitter at alloutwarcast. Hey, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.